Hello, everybody. Welcome to PEX Talks Industry 4.0. Is it all hype? I am Elizabeth Nixon, the editor of PEXNetwork. And joining me today, we have Analytica's #1 Industry 4.0 influencer, Jeff Winter. Hi, Jeff.
Hello.
Hi. So in addition to being the #1 in Industry 4.0 influencer, Jeff Winter is also the Senior Director of Industry Strategy Manufacturing at Hitachi Solutions America. And he was also included on our own list of the top 50 thought leaders in operational excellence for 2023. So Jeff, let's get started. First things first, how do you define Industry 4.0?
Well, this is my favorite topic. So Industry 4.0 is the nickname or moniker given to the fourth industrial revolution. And as its name implies, it's a revolution in the way the entire industry operates, including how everyone works within it, typically resulting in massive changes in society. So far, we've had three major industrial revolutions. The first industrial revolution was in the 1700s, where we mechanized the world through harnessing water and steam power. The second industrial revolution came about in the late 1800s through the advent of electricity, where we electrified the world. The third industrial revolution, or Industry 3.0, took place in the 60s and 70s, where we started to use computers to automate the world. Industry 4.0 is the era we're living in right now. It's all about connecting the digital and the physical worlds together. But here's the way I like to describe it. Industry 3.0 is about automation, the reduction of human intervention in processes. Industry 4.0 is about cognition, or the process of acquiring knowledge and understanding. And these two are separated by the ability to properly capture and harness the power of data. And digital transformation can be thought of as the journey and strategy to get to this vision of Industry 4.0. Now, the term was famously introduced in 2011 at Hanover Fair as part of the German high-tech strategy. And since then, it's taken hold all across the world. However, there's no universally accepted definition, as it's taken on different meanings in different countries, agencies, academic groups, associations, and especially companies. Heck, we can't even agree on all the technologies that are included. I mean, if you think about all the different ones out there, there's artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, IoT, digital twin, blockchain, cloud, edge, just to name a few. This means it's up to every company to come up with their own definition to figure out how to take advantage of all these technologies collectively to thrive in this transformative era that we're living in right now. Now, Industry 5.0 is an even less defined or agreed upon concept, with about 1/12 the number of people searching for it on Google as they do Industry 4.0, according to Google Trends. Now, the European Commission has produced some stuff on it, but other than that, I would describe it more of a longer-term vision around emphasizing human-machine collaboration. This means that Industry 5.0 seeks to harmonize technological advancement with human creativity and adaptability. But knowing that we're still just getting started with Industry 4.0, I think it's where we should focus on the near term.
Completely. So what are some of the major capabilities and technologies associated with Industry 4.0?
So when we say capabilities, we're really talking about the promise of Industry 4.0. What does it provide? And this can really be broken down into two categories: bottom line impact and top line growth. So for bottom line impact, that includes things like reducing operational costs. So automation and AI technologies can minimize human error and increase efficiency. For example, robotics, they can help to automate repetitive tasks, reducing labor costs. 3D printing, as another example, can reduce operational costs by enabling on-demand production, minimizing waste, decreasing inventory and storage needs, and cutting down on transportation costs associated with traditional manufacturing processes. Second would be increasing product quality. So using IoT sensors and computer vision, leveraging machine learning, it can become really easy to catch defects early and ensure high quality production. Third would be improving operational agility. So digital twins and cloud computing allow for simulation and fast adaptation to changes in market demands or operational conditions. For example, a digital twin can simulate production changes without disrupting operations. And fourth, optimizing supply chains. So IoT and AI can provide real-time visibility into supply chain and predict future disruptions. They can enable better inventory management and efficient logistics. So for example, AI can combine and make sense of all the social sentiment that's happening out there, political news, weather, even traffic, or upstream or downstream part shortages to better forecast demand and optimize distribution. Another example, blockchain can be used to optimize supply chains by providing a transparent, immutable, and decentralized ledger of transactions. And that enhances traceability, it reduces fraud, and facilitates seamless, trustful information across all the participants. And another is providing better visibility. So IoT and cloud computing enables real-time tracking of resources, products, processes, and even people, offering greater transparency. For example, IoT devices can track the real-time location and condition of products throughout an entire production process. And as a manufacturer, imagine being able to see on your phone anywhere in the world real-time OEE numbers for the entire company, and you can drill down into specific factories, further into specific production lines, and even further into individual assets. From the top line, we can see things like personalized products. So with Industry 4.0 technologies like big data analytics, IoT, and AI, companies can gather and analyze lots of data about customer preferences and behavior. And this data can be used to customize products and services, leading to increased sales and customer loyalty. Another being new business models. So Industry 4.0 enables new business models, things like servitization, which is selling outcomes rather than products, subscription-based models or platform-based models. These can help completely change the way that value is provided. So you can go from a company, instead of selling machinery and equipment, to selling machine hours or performance outcomes. These are just a few examples, but if you want case studies on companies that have done this, I would encourage you to look at the World Economic Forum's Lighthouse program. As of January 2023, they've identified 132 lighthouses that are basically best-in-class manufacturing facilities doing Industry 4.0 in multiple of these categories.
So all that's great, but what percentage of organizations have actually adopted these technologies?
Well, this is a hard one to answer once again, because so many people and companies and even research agencies have different definitions of Industry 4.0. There's a lot of studies out there for individual technology adoption, but there's few on the collective, cohesive integration of how all these technologies come together to completely change the way that manufacturers operate. So as an example, Flexera has their State of 2023 cloud report that came out, and they identified 50% of enterprise accounts have half of their workloads already in the cloud, whereas 67% of small to mid-sized companies have half of their workloads already in the cloud. Now, this may actually be a little counterintuitive, because usually bigger enterprise, they have much more complex environments, which is why we actually see a higher adoption in the small companies. But if we look at another technology like digital twin, according to IoT Analytics in their 2023 digital twin report, 29% of companies globally reported implementing digital twin strategy for their shop floor, and 27% for the devices and products that are sold to customers. So some technologies are much further along than others. But if we switch to smart manufacturing use cases, which I would argue is a subset of Industry 4.0, according to a different IoT Analytics report, discrete industries have adopted 46% of smart manufacturing use cases on average. Now, the process industry came in with a lower penetration of 37%, and the machinery industry is by far the most advanced with an average adoption of 57%. But this also varies by region. They identified that Asia Pacific is actually leading, and North America is coming in second in terms of a regional adoption. And there's a ton of stats that we can drill down here, but in general, I would say collectively across the board, as an industry, we're still in our infancy in our Industry 4.0 journey.
Interesting. So can you share an example for us?
So this entirely depends on how you want to break it down. We could do it by technology or by initiative, but a good example I like to share is Kraft Heinz, which is invested heavily in its digital supply chain technology as a result of the pandemic. They actually built a supply chain digital twin that connected 34 of their manufacturing facilities together with a control tower that gained visibility on, I believe it was 85 product categories. And this resulted in over 8% improvement in shipment SKU mix accuracy. And just last month in May, they publicly announced that they added $30 million in sales by applying AI to their supply chain visibility function. And this was done by automating service risk identification and operator alerts. I mean, I think operator alerts alone were reduced by 42%. And on top of that, their case fill rates shot up to 95%, which is a big increase. And they're a big company that has something like a $4 billion in inventory. Now, what's also interesting is I just made a post on LinkedIn earlier this week on different case studies that IoT Analytics produced in a report. And Microsoft, as an example, had 2,117 public case studies, of which manufacturing accounted for the biggest industry at 24%. Which is unique compared to all the other tech companies like Amazon and Google. They didn't have manufacturing as their number one. So in total, there's about then 500 case studies for manufacturing. So if you want to look at more case studies on specific examples, there's 500 right there on their website.
Interesting. So what's holding companies back? Why are some companies not investing in this yet?
So this also depends on what initiatives each company is focusing on. Rockwell Automation had a state of manufacturing report come out this year that identified skilled workforce as the number one limiting factor for smart manufacturing. 46% of manufacturers say that they lack the skilled workforce to outpace the competition over the next 12 months. And if you dive deeper into that, they actually state training current employees on updated processes and change management are the two biggest workforce related obstacles. But according to IoT Analytics in their Industry 4.0 report last year, data science and AI are the most severe skill gaps, and IT cybersecurity comes in at number 2. Of course, this once again varies by industry. They actually state that textiles and chemicals have the biggest gap, and electronics and food and beverage actually have the smallest gap. But from a technical side, the number one biggest barrier in inhibiting the scaling of smart factory projects is actually developing new applications, followed by securing the OT network and interfacing with existing applications such as ERP and MES.
Fantastic. So you've spoken a lot about the benefits of these technologies and how they're revolutionizing the industry, but what are some of the risks and downfalls associated with them?
So I'll go over probably the 3 big ones that I see. First is cybersecurity risks. With the increasing connected devices and systems, there are more points for entry for cyber attacks. Industrial systems could be targeted not only just to steal intellectual property, but they can also cause disruptions in production. According to Microsoft's Digital Defense Report in 2022, manufacturing was the highest industry by far at 28% for ransomware incidents and recovery engagements. The second is data privacy concerns. So with the rise in data collection, handling, and analytics, privacy issues are a significant concern. Businesses need to ensure that they comply with the relevant data protection regulations and that they handle data responsibly. And third is dependence on technology. I mean, a heavy reliance on automation and advanced technologies may lead to vulnerabilities in the event of technical issues, malfunctions, or even just power outages. And this is where having business continuity planning and risk mitigation planning become imperative. On top of that, some specific technologies have their own risks and downsides. AI is a perfect example. So AI is one of the few technologies where you have to consider ethics and bias. Since the whole point of AI is to augment and automate decisions, we as a society, we as companies, and we as individuals need to make sure that we minimize this bias as much as possible. This includes specific bias detection and mitigation techniques, implementing principles like transparent and explainable AI, setting up internal AI ethics committee, and developing ethical guidelines and standards. I mean, most of the big major AI companies have published information for what they do that you can use as your own general requirements so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The Responsible AI Institute is an example of a consortium that was just set up to be vendor neutral and address these very issues with answers to help the industry and the society at large. But if we go even deeper, generative AI specifically even has more specific examples where you can have to deal with things like hallucinations, which is basically where the AI model generates answers that sound plausible, but they're completely bogus. And it happens from time to time. So knowing how it works allows you to better apply the technology in the right areas instead of high-risk areas.
Very interesting. So what are some steps that manufacturers need to take today in order to avoid some of these outcomes?
So I would say not necessarily steps, because that depends on a defined future state and understanding your current state. But I do have 5 general areas I would suggest companies focus on. The first is invest in cybersecurity. This could be considered the first step, or just the biggest area of focus. This is absolutely a must, and it has to be at the core and the foundation of all things Industry 4.0. In order to protect sensitive data and maintain operational integrity, manufacturers should invest in robust cybersecurity measures and ensure that their employees are properly trained in digital security protocols, and especially knowing that most IT teams are unfamiliar with OT, they should learn a little bit about that world as well. The second is data management. So with the vast amount of data generated through IoT and AI applications, manufacturers need to have a comprehensive data management strategy in place. And this should include a clear understanding of what data is being collected, where it's being stored, and how it should be used, and who has access to it. Third is talent development and retention. Implementing Industry 4.0 technologies often requires new skills and competencies. Manufacturers should invest in training and development programs to equip their workforce with the necessary knowledge and skills. They should be able to consider also hiring talents and expertise in areas like AI, ML, and data science. Fourth is infrastructure compatibility. Industry 4.0 technologies require advanced infrastructure, and before implementing specific new technologies, manufacturers should ensure their existing infrastructure is compatible and prepared for the upgrade and the scale. And this may involve investments in new hardware, platforms, applications, networks, architectures, protocols, and even data models that all seamlessly work together with as few custom connections as possible. And lastly, I would say is partner ecosystems. So Industry 4.0 is a massive topic that spans many technologies, many skills, and many areas of knowledge. There is no one company that does it all, not even close. So developing the right partnerships and alliances with technology providers, with system integrators, with universities, research institutes can be extremely beneficial. Build an ecosystem of partners that can work together collectively to help you achieve your goals.
Interesting. So you touched on this a little bit in your previous answer, but what about the human factor? How will Industry 4.0 impact human workers?
So Industry 4.0 represents a transformative shift in the way that we work, directly affecting employees at all levels. Let's just go from the bottom. For frontline workers, the adoption of advanced technologies could mean that routine manual tasks are automated, potentially leading to job displacement. However, it could also lead to opportunities for upskilling and reskilling, as there is a growing need for workers capable of managing and maintaining these complex systems. And this could shift operators into more technicians who oversee a group of machines instead of just operating a single machine. For middle management, decision-making processes will increasingly rely on data analytics and AI, requiring a solid understanding of these tools. So their role could evolve more into a direct overseer. Instead of just overseeing different functions, they can now focus on strategic, data-informed decision-making. I would say the challenge, though, will be interpreting and applying data insights effectively, which will be a big new skill that layer is going to have to develop. And at an executive level, leadership will not only need to understand these new technologies, but also guide their strategic implementation. For instance, a CEO won't merely sign off on a new technology purchase, but will need to consider its integration into current operations, its impact on the workforce, and potential ethical considerations. The executives will be pushed more into visionary leaders than they've ever have been before that will constantly need to drive company change. Even technology, it's going to have completely different impacts, and every technology will impact different functions differently. According to OpenAI, in their own generative AI models, they found that 80% of American workforce belong to an occupation where at least 10% of their tasks can be done or aided by specifically generative AI. And 1/5 of the workforce belong to an occupation where 50% of work tasks could be impacted by generative AI.
Interesting. So what about smaller manufacturers, organizations that might, have limited budgets, smaller IT footprints? How should they be approaching Industry 4.0?
So I like this question because you always hear about the big companies out there, but they only represent a small portion of US manufacturing. It's mostly small to mid-sized companies. So last year, I was part of a working group with Mesa that wrote a 58-page document to address this specific topic. It's actually called a low-risk incremental approach to smart manufacturing for small and medium-sized manufacturers. And in it, we talk about the drivers, the reasons why smart manufacturing is imperative for small manufacturers. We talk about what it is like to envision a smart factory and then go over the approach. And this approach really revolves around developing a smart manufacturing roadmap, the mindset of thinking big yet starting small, which is a shift in the way that these companies think. It talks about taking the approach of refining the scope of smart manufacturing transformations and the budget to match them, identifying performance metrics before and after formulating a granular project plan. It goes over getting senior management buy-in and approval for the roadmap and communicating the plan to all the stakeholders. And then there's a whole section on the initiation phase. But if I were to summarize the main idea of that, it's about taking a modular approach, bite-sized chunks that companies can get started on, things like human data collection, paper elimination, asset health monitoring and maintenance, material or finished goods management, environmental monitoring, real-time process control, quality inspection, knowledge management, to name a few. And it goes over kind of the benefit of doing it this way and how you can demonstrate ROI on each one of these modular initiatives, but yet tie it back to the larger digital transformation initiative towards the vision of Industry 4.0.
Fantastic. So unfortunately, we're almost out of time. We just have one last question for you. And what would you say is the biggest misconception people have about Industry 4.0? What would you like to set the record straight on?
It's a great question. And I would probably say there are three main misconceptions I see out there. One of the biggest misconceptions about Industry 4.0 is that it's all about implementing cutting-edge technology for its own sake. Many people view it as a race to incorporate the latest technologies, especially when it comes to things like generative AI, into all facets of their organization, believing that these technologies will automatically lead to increased efficiency, productivity, and profitability. However, the reality is that Industry 4.0 is less about the technology itself and more about how the technologies can help businesses meet their strategic objectives, create value, and respond to changing market conditions. It's about integrating digital technologies together in a unique way for your particular organization to optimize processes, improve decision-making, and create more flexible, responsive production systems. It ends up becoming more about the people than it does the technology. Another common misconception is that Industry 4.0 is only for the large corporations. While it's true that large corporations may have more resources to invest in new technologies, small and medium-sized businesses can also greatly benefit from Industry 4.0. Digital transformation is not an all or nothing proposition. Even smaller steps like implementing a single IoT system or adopting data analytics can provide significant benefits. Back to the modular approach I talked about in the last question. And if you actually look at the World Economic Forum's Lighthouse program that I mentioned, the first 16 companies that they announced, do you realize that one of them was actually a small Italian manufacturer that only had around 200 employees or so? So yes, small can be successful. And the third misconception is about Industry 4.0 is that it's going to lead to massive job losses. While it's true that some jobs, especially routine manual tasks, may be automated and completely displaced, Industry 4.0 creates new jobs that require new skills. And in many cases, automation and AI can, like I said earlier, take over these mundane tasks, freeing up human workers to focus on more complex, creative, and strategic tasks. According to the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs 2023 report, of the 28 technologies that they tracked, 26 of them, companies reported that technology would create more jobs than it displaces. So there's going to be a lot of excitement for opportunities for work in the future.
Absolutely. It's an extremely exciting time. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for being here. I know I feel much better informed and very inspired. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for watching. We are going to continue our PEX Talks next month. We're going to be talking about AI and its impacts on operational excellence as a career. So we're going to be talking a lot about, the human side of AI, the skills that you need to learn and how it's going to impact the industry in the long run. So we hope to see you there. And Jeff, I mean, to close things out, do you have any final pearls of wisdom, any shout outs, anything that you would like to say before we leave?
I just think that this is an exciting time that we're in right now. And it really comes down to a mindset change. Looking at all the stuff that's happening out there is a way to do things better and in new ways than we've ever done before. And those that embrace that mindset, they're going to thrive in this time.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.